In this lesson, we're going to learn how to replace the skies of ordinary videos and add a really cool background, such as a space background, a sunset, a cloudy sky, and so much more. So we're going to make our composition. But first, we're going to import our stuff. So we have a lot of videos. We may not use all of them, but it's good to have choices. Maybe you want to use a different one. You can just bring them in. And we're going to make a composition out of the base of our footage. So this is our first base. You can see it's just a regular mountain landscape. And then we're going to do something a bit more complex that requires more color grading with a galaxy background. Alright, so for this video, we just have a really simple shot, which was done on a tripod. So it doesn't shake as much. And let it render. So this is the video, as you can see. We just have this simple shot of this mountain landscape. I'm just gonna bring this down. So I'm gonna make a new composition and just bring it in. 30 seconds. Alright, so I'm gonna play it back here. That way we have space for maybe stretching the video. So until this part, it's good. You can see after that, it kind of shakes. So I'm just gonna cut this to 5 seconds. And then like that, we have a still video with minimal movement. And that will just make things easier for the sky replacement. So we have two cloudy sky options. I'm going to try both of them out. Sometimes it may not work so well. You may have to use the other one. So I'm going to go in the effects and presets. I'm going to search for Luma key. Add this on the video. Then we're going to go to key out brighter, because as you can see, it's only the bright part. I'm going to add to the threshold until the sky is gone. Don't worry about here. We can always just duplicate our layer, which I forgot to do. Delete that. Control D on this layer. So we have two now. And on the one below it, I'm going to turn on the visibility for the first one. We're going to add Luma key and just do what we were doing. Key out brighter. Add to the threshold until you're not seeing the sky. Also move in a few frames and make sure the sky does not appear. It doesn't. And then feather the edges just a little bit and add to the edge. I guess there won't be a need for it. Just play around with these until you're happy with the way it looks. Alright. So now I'm just gonna bring back my second clip, deduplicate. Let's call this Luma Mountains. So I know that I applied the Luma key to this, and call this the just mountains. Right. Get the pen tool and just go around the mountains. It doesn't have to be perfect, but try to get. Also leave a big space between the edge and here, because we're going to be feathering things out. Let me do that again. Bring this here. Go up here and just start to roughly go around the mountains, creating curves at times, like so. Cut the handle if you need to. Just adjust things until you have a nice outline of the mountain. So now we have cropped this out, and we are going to just feather things out a bit. So on the mountains layer, hit M twice to open the mask properties, and we're just going to feather out the edges of the video. Also work with the expansion, just bring it down. As you can see, it's a lot better than it was. Just keep working around with these feathering options until you're happy with it. So before this mask, we had like a lot of empty spots. Now it's filled in. And we're left with a skyless landscape. So now we can easily, let me close that composition. We can easily bring in our two skies and see which one works better. So just click and drag it below the Luma Mountains. So this is one sky option. Then we also have this. Turn off the audio for this. So it's either this or this. You can see both of them work. But also keep in mind that when you're replacing skies, you want to make sure they have similar lighting so that it will be easier for you to color grade. Because when you're first starting out, color grading may not be your favorite thing. So try to get something that they're both shot during the day, and something that would make sense in this real life scenario. So you won't have to do that much color grading. Well, after this, we are going to see a bit of a more complex example. So if you were interested in color grading, then that example will help you out. But this one is just a simple sky replacement, just for you to learn how to do it. So I'm going to play this. And the thing is that these two cloud videos are time lapse. So I need to slow them down, or at least if the mountain videos was long enough, I could make the mountains video faster. But the thing is that we only have 5 seconds of this, so we could only slow down the cloud video because we have so much of it. Right, so that was with the first video. Let me look at the second one and see which one I prefer. I think I prefer this one compared to the other one. Actually, this is better. So I'm going to just delete this, but if you guys prefer the other cloud, you can bring it in and it's the same process. So choose whichever cloud you like. Alright, so I'm going to cut this really short like this, and then we're going to time stretch it. So right click on the clouds video, go to time stretch. We're going to go for like 150. A little bit more. I wanted to reach the edge of this. Let's try 200. Alright. Now let's see, let it render. Let me cut this. Okay, we should slow it down a lot more. Let's go for 300. And just cut the extra bits. I guess the 200 was fine. So we do have minimal movement with the water as it is. So it's not that strange. Just gonna leave it like this. Close this off. And now all we have to do is to first fix the edges of the mountains and then continue to color grade our clip. So this was the mask. I'm gonna zoom in. Let's see if so it's not the mask. We have to deal with the Luma Mountains. As you can see, if I turn off the visibility of the mountains video, we're barely getting anything. We just have this little halo effect, which is not that big of a deal. I'm going to turn this off and go to Luma Mountains. Go to Effect Control, and we're going to maybe add to the edge thin. There we are. Now we're not seeing that white line that we saw. turn this back on, and we do have, I think we overdid it with the edge thin. Let's try 2. Alright, there it is. Bring this back. There we are. So now we don't have that white line. But instead we're getting the sky. Remove the threshold again. Zoom in. Alright, now it's better. Also, make sure you go in a few frames. And now I know that I have to remove the feathering of my mountains layer a bit. Hit M twice. And just remove the feathering. Zoom in. See this again. Alright, so we're getting some bald spots. Just bring back the mask expansion, and now we're not getting those bald spots. Just gotta keep working with these things. And you can always just bring down the mask if you saw that the effect is not taking place in one particular part. It's just a matter of playing around and seeing what works best. Alright, so now it's looking better. We have the mountains in one spot, and we have the sky in another. I am noticing something like this. Let me just bring down the mask. Keep doing that. As you can see, the mountain kind of blends in with the sky, so I don't have to be perfect. Bring it down, and there we are. It's looking alright. Okay. You could also create a mask path if you saw that there's some glitches going on. I'm gonna turn that on, the keyframe. Get my hand tool and go into location where it's like glitching. Hit play, and then I know that in this part I need to maybe add another point and just bring it up so I'm not getting that glitch. Again, we're getting that, so we're going to just add to that until we're not seeing the glitch. It's good here. And then here we can see it's starting to show the white bits. Go around here, create a point. Go to the point where it's like going up. Bring down the mask. And there we are. Gonna have a look at this. And now it's looking good. So this only happens because the shot wasn't stable. We could go in with a warp stabilizer, but that will just make things too complicated. So if you want a perfect shot and you want to take the video yourself, just make sure it's on a tripod and there's no movement, so you won't have to deal with these moving mask problems. Okay, so now that we have this, let's get to some simple color grading. Hit M to close the mask properties. Go from the beginning, and we're going to add some color correction. Just go in the color correction tab, and we're going to first think what is off about the sky that is not fitting in with the background. And that is the number one, the light, and then a bit of the color. So to do that all together, you just need Lumetri Color, click and drag on top of the clouds layer. So now on the clouds layer, we have a lot of options. Start with a basic correction, or better yet, you go straight to the curves. This is my favorite. It gets things done a lot better. I'm going to lift the shadows like this because it was a bit too dark. Then we're going to kind of remove the contrast. And then maybe add to the highlights just a slight bit. And now we have brightened up the sky. So we can see, simple, really easy. What we can do is just remove some of that blues, go to the blue curve and just go on the opposite side. You can go down just to kind of darken it. And then we can go to the colors, close curves, and go here, the creative panel, and we're going to work with the vibrance and all. Just remove the vibrance tiny bit. Like so. And I think we're good to go. Let me go in a few frames. Okay, so no, we've kind of made it gray. So I'm going to add to the vibrance. And we're good. Let's also add a hue and saturation. Click and drag on top of the cloud video. Actually that's a wrong thing. Go to selective color. Delete hue and saturation. Go to selective color and then change the colors to blue because we have blues. And this is where we get to kind of mess around with the color itself. So whether you want to add more cyan, remove cyan. So if you're removing cyan, we're going towards the red side. If you remember the opposite colors, I'll say them again. So the opposite of cyan is red. The opposite of magenta is green. The opposite of yellow is blue. The opposite of black is white. So if you're setting cyan to -100, you're making it more red, as we can see here. If you're adding cyan, you're making it really blue. So we did want to add some cyan. Just a little bit. We want to add, remove some of the yellows. Let's make it more blue. Want to add some blacks to kind of darken the color. And also remove some magenta. Better yet, we should actually add some magenta. Remove some of the cyans. It's a bit much. Let's add to the blues. Let's add some yellows. There we are. Just a few tweaks with the color. You can also add some magenta. And now it's looking better. So just with a few tweaks with the color and the brightness, we have now color graded our sky. And to show you a before and after, just open up effects. This was the before, and this is the after. So we made it brighter, and we made the blue match up with the landscape that we have. Alright, so we easily replaced the sky of this footage. I'm going to let it render. And this was just a simple way to do it. There are more complicated ways where they track things, use 3D cameras. But for simple footage like this, you don't really need to do that. And if we maybe slow down the cloud, let's go to 50. Or you could just get a cloud footage that isn't moving this fast. Yeah, I'm not going to stretch it even more because it's going to get pixelated. Just if you want to do this for your own purposes, get a regular cloud video. You can film it yourself. Just make sure it's not a time lapse like this is. I just brought it in just to show you how you can color grade skies. Alright, now that we're done with the easy example, let's get to the more advanced, and that is a galaxy sky background, or just a galaxy for the sky. So delete everything, or just delete the composition. Go to project, and we're going to make a new composition, comp2. It's going to come here, and now our base video is this. This person taking a walk, and you can see this footage is a lot more still compared to the first video. It's not moving, and clearly we can see we have a nice sky that we can easily remove. I'm gonna also put this to 5 seconds. Just go with a time indicator on the layer, Control-Shift-D, delete the other bits, cut the clip, and now we can see it's just a guy walking towards the sky, and it's a perfect opportunity to make him look like he's walking towards space. Okay, so our background videos, we have this guy. And actually, before I forget, I had one more clip for the mountains video. I had a bird clip that I wanted to place on top, so just do that now. And it's pretty large. Let's make it less. You can stretch it out if you want. Try to get the whole situation. I do want the edges to meet, just in case the birds decided to... Hold on, let me... Okay. Just in case the birds decided to fly this way. And now we're going to go to search for key. Go to color key. Apply it onto birds. And I'm also going to cut this. Let me see if they're flying in the beginning. Okay, we got a bunch of birds flying. Click and drag it here. Control-Shift-D. Delete the rest. Color key on this bird video. Just grab the eyedropper tool because we have a flat blue, unlike the first video where we had the clouds, we had a sky, so it was different colors. So here we just get this, and then we're going to remove the color tolerance until we're not seeing the sky. And again, move in, make sure it stays that way throughout the clip. Okay. Now let this play, and I'm actually realizing that maybe the birds are animated. Are they animated? I want to see if they're real birds. Okay, they're animations. You can just leave it for a fun touch. It's not going to be realistic. But I'm going to let it render. And then we can maybe lower the intensity of their existence. So because the birds are animated, it will create a kind of synthetic look to your work. So if you do want it to look real, just get footage of real birds. And you can see because we set the video for as long as this, when this guy flies away, he does not get cut off halfway. He completely goes out the clip. Alright, let's hit T on this and just kind of lower the opacity. Oops, it's a lot. Very tiny bit, like 87. So they're not as visible. You can also make them smaller if you want. Just gonna leave them be. Alright. Again, it's kind of synthetic. You can leave it in if you want. I'm gonna leave it, it's fun. Alright, let's go back to the other composition. So this is our background. I'm going to turn off the audio. This is the background that we have. You can see it's a really beautiful galaxy video. And we're going to try to put behind the guy. We also had another one, I believe. See the clouds. Okay, now we only had this one video. It's okay. We're gonna leave it be. So with this video, we're just gonna do the same, cut it short, or as long as your video goes on. And I'm gonna turn on the man video again. And here we can also use the color key because it's a rather flat color. We won't use Luma because we have some bright spots. Though we may end up using Luma, but let's try the color key first. Get the eyedropper tool and just click in a place. Oops. Remove it until we're not seeing the thing. And again, we have to do the feathering option. Let me try the Luma key, see if this will help us. Key out brighter. Threshold. Bring this back. Alright. So regardless, we do have to create a mask, but this one is less than this. So let's stick with color key. Turn on the FX, the visibility. Open this up and we can feather the edges. And then add to the thin. Oops, maybe 1. Okay. And let's Control D the layer. Oops, the layer. Go on the layer, Control D. On the second one, we're going to delete effects. And on the first one, I'm going to turn the FX back on. So on the second one, we're going to do the same thing. Get your pen tool, again, further away from the composition. Create these points. So we can feather out the thing. And if you did see you have some tiny details, you can easily get rid of them. So you don't have to deal with them bringing in some of the whites. And we're just going to hit G, switch between H and G to switch between the pen tool and the hand tool. Just go around like we did. We don't have to use mask path in this example because we just don't have a lot of movement with the main video that we have. So this is a great thing if you want to help yourself out. You should get a footage that does not move as much, because then you would have to spend time trying to figure out the path of your mask, and at times that could get frustrating. We're going to feather this out anyways, so it doesn't have to be perfect, just get a nice outline of the person. Alright, so we have this. Again, we have to go hit V to get to your selection tool. Let me rename this. Let's name this copy. This one, key. So I know this one was keyed out. This is copied. Right, now I'm going to have a look at this. You can see even the guy is disappearing. We just have to do some feathering with this guy. Hit M twice on the copy layer, and we're going to first reduce the expansion, then add to the feathering. And zoom in on the guy and redo what I tried to do. Just once you feather it out, these parts will not be as visible because they're turning into this faded white color. So don't worry about that. We're going to add an overall color correction, so that will not be that visible. And I'm going to bring this down. Alright, let me bring this back to fit. Click away and make sure my character is visible. He is, but we do have some halo effects in here, so I'll have to just go in here and I left a lot of space. Just simply bring these down so you don't have to deal with the things. The issues. Just bring them here. Let's work with the little curves, the handles, just making sure that we're getting everything with the little things and just bring them down here. Again, you can also cut parts of the mountains. Since we're going to darken the entire work, it's not going to be that visible. But do be careful around the person, the human subject. Try to get a nice selection from him. Use the handles to add curves to certain areas, and the smaller you make the handle, the less curve it's going to have, so just keep that in mind when you're adding curves. And if you wanted, you can always add a point like I just did, so you're not limited to the points you made before. It's an odd shape. Bring this here, cut the curves a bit, add a point, and then add a curve here, and another one here. Hit etch. And we're just perfecting our mask, so once we do add the feathering and all that, we don't end up cutting half of the project. Alright, I just have to get the last point and just bring it down. Alright, it fits. Oops, made a new mask. Hit V, click away. And now we just need to reduce the feathering. Click away. And just remove from the expansion. Click away, and it's a lot better. And if you did see that the mountains and the human are not working well together, you can easily create a third duplicate and kind of dedicate it to the main subject. So don't worry too much if it's kind of making your human subject fade out like that. Okay, I'm gonna go in the key version. I'm gonna turn this off for a second. So we're getting these lines, and I want to make sure that that does not happen. Change edge thin to 2. And I'm going to remove the feather. Alright, so now we're not seeing that. Turn this back on. Now we're just dealing with whatever happens in this layer. Reduce the opacity, and now it's a lot better. I'm going to create a third duplicate, Control D. And in here, we're going to just focus on the person. I'm going to first get to the pen tool and just click and then hold to unleash these. And just kind of cut out and delete the points here. Just focus on the human. Alright, I have 2 points. Click and hold again. Get the regular pen tool and just hold on. because that's our first point. I'll create one here. Then I'll delete this guy and just bring this down. Delete that too, and that. So now I should only be getting the guy and some of the rocks. The rocks aren't important. Just get the guy, and we're going to go in the mask option and just reduce the feathering. And again, in the second copy, let me close this, rename this to person. Oops. Person. Turn off the visibility. Go to this copy, and we're going to delete the person from this mask layer. Just get that and just delete the points completely, because the feathered parts that we did for the person here, it's going to show up in the other one, and that's not good. So go in here, and we're just going to remove the mask expansion. Let me zoom in. So now we have a sharp outline. So it fits. See how that looks. And that's better. Our subject is sharp. He is looking a bit strange. Let me bring those parts in and just feather things out. Again, being careful with the edges that he has. Okay. So now we're good to go. Remember, the person is blurred, so that's the blurring we're seeing. He's not going to be sharp like the place where the camera is focused on, which is these rocks. So now that we have this, let's close these. And first play this and see how it goes. So we have a nice sky and this person moving away. And as we can see, we have a problem because he's moving away. And I'm just going to try something first. Let me turn off the visibility for this. Open up my key, reset this, get the darker color around him. Will that work? It works better on the person at least. Add to the tolerance. Alright. Then add this, so that way we won't really need the person. Let me turn off the person layer and play this back, see if he gets... Okay, you can see he doesn't get that extra light, so we just need... we have to just choose the right color. Now in the copy, I am going to see where the problem is first. Okay, we have some empty spots here. Gonna go into copy. Let me bring this below, so just in case we need it, we can bring it back up. Hit M twice on copy. Let's reduce the feathering. Play this back. And there we are. Alright, so now we can easily go ahead and start with the color grading. And just for you to know, the clip gets brighter on its own. Sorry, darker on its own. So that's just a clip, and it's not our feathering techniques. Bring these two layers back on, and we're going to start color grading. So for color grading, we need to do a lot of things. The first one, let's just open color correction and see what we can do. So first of all, we need to add a bluish hue to the entire thing because the person's going to outer space. So I'm going to create a new adjustment layer. In here, right click, new adjustment layer. On this, we're going to add hue and saturation. Then we're going to hit the colorize option. And we're going to choose, just work with the slider. We're going to go for like a bluish color. Should I go on this blue? I'm not sure. Just playing around and seeing what works best. I guess a blue like this needs to kind of be purplish too. We can increase the saturation or decrease it. Let's stick with the number it chose for us. We can also add or remove the lightness. Alright, so on this one, on this adjustment layer, let me name this colorize. I'm going to a T on colorize and just reduce the opacity. Just bring this colorize on top of Galaxy. So it's like a little bit of decolorizing, although let's try that here. Just kind of dim down the whole thing because it is kind of night. I mean, it is night. So let's also darken our clip by, let's create another adjustment layer so I can access these separately if I wanted to do some adjustments. Let's call this light. Brightness and contrast, drag it onto light, and we're going to first reduce the brightness. It is night. And also just add to the contrast. So slowly we're turning this into night. And let's see what else we can do. Let's add a curves as well onto light. Darken the shadows. Want to make sure he's really dark, and the only brightness that's going on the rocks is from the sky and not from the clip because the clip was shot during daytime. Reduce the highlights too. Let's darken the midtones. So this part needs to be darker than the sky because he's going against that, and our camera will capture something like this. If it were in a situation like this, let's also do more with the shadows. There we are. Because the person is going directly into the light source, it needs to be really dark. And let's have a look. Need to be careful about the part where the sky turns darker. Okay. And also let's go in the, close these two. I'm going to make another adjustment layer. Again, it helps when you have separate layers. Right click, call this Lumetri. Gonna add a Lumetri color. There it is. Put it on Lumetri. And we're going to just go in the color wheels and add some colors to the different tones. So we have the shadows. I want to set a, let's go for a bluish effect. Bring it in towards the middle so it's not as vibrant. We have the highlights too. Let's kind of add a purplish tone to it. And the midtones, I'm not going to touch them. Instead, I am going to maybe, let's try lightening up the shadows, the colors that we added. So it's a little bit lighter. The highlights, let's do the same. There we are. You can go in here. Actually, there's no need. Go into creative and just reduce the overall saturation of the clip. Not too much. For 63. Because color is not that visible in dark places. We're only seeing the colors when there's light. But because we're trying to create this magical space effect, that is why we added these color tints to the shadows. But again, if you don't want them to have that color effect, you can simply just remove colorize, which actually looks better once I remove it. It's gonna go on colorize, hit T, turn this instead of 55 to maybe 30. Let's try 20. Okay. So I did want it to be a little bit tinted, the entire thing, but I do want to see the nice colors that the sky has. I'm gonna let this render, and I'm gonna see if there's anything else that I need to do to just enhance this whole composition that we created. Alright, so this is what we made so far. We colorized it, we cut out the area completely. I do want to do something. This is completely optional, you don't have to. I'm just gonna get all these, Control-Shift-T, delete, and let's go here, move this. So what I want to do, which is optional, is to create these little balls. I don't know if you guys can see, but there's these little balls going around and they fade out once they go behind this mountain. And I feel like when we add it, as in this will definitely make it look like this is one real composition. So I'm going to just do that. Let me delete this. And let's create shapes. Long click the rectangle tool to get the ellipse tool. And we're just going to delete, we don't need the stroke. Click on stroke, then do that. I'm going to go for a white color because they are kind of white. And I'm just going to create these little balls of light. Where's the one we created? Let me see where it went. Okay. So this is a bit too big. Let's make it smaller. Hit scale on shape 1 and just... Oh wait, that's not the thing. Let me create my shape once I'm zoomed in. So I know exactly how small or how big I need to make it. So we can see it's this little thing. I'm actually moving the Lumetri color. I'm gonna lock all of these so I don't move them. I'm trying to move my shape and my shape only. See, I moved this entirely. Bring it back. There we are. And just lock all of these little things. Okay. I'm going to right click, pre-compose my shape 1. Okay. And let me see where it was. So it's this tiny dot here. It's not that visible. Double click on that so you enter this spot, and I'm just going to keep creating these little dust, I guess. Click this. This is our shape 1. Go to contents. And we're just going to copy this. Control D. And then Control T. Oops. Not Control T. That's another program. Hit V and hit P actually. Better yet, we could just create them so they're not identical. I feel like if it's too identical, we'll kind of ruin the fact that this is a regular, real composition. Just create these little dots. Can't really see. Should zoom in. Little dust particles that are going to be flowing towards us in the thing. Okay, and I'm just gonna get the thing tool. Let me see if I move the position. I'm gonna be moving them all. Alright, let me change something real quick. Alright, so to make sure that if you're going to create these separately, I made them in one layer, but if you wanted to make them separately and you want the anchor point to be in the center, remember we could do that easily by going to Edit, Preferences, General, and then we would just have to check a box, which is Center Anchor Point in New Shape Layers. Hit OK. That's if you want to create them separately. Because we created them like this, and before that I'm just going to save my project. I saved my project, Control S. I made them in one layer because I don't want to deal with the whole editing and animating each of these tiny particles. So you could do that if you want to, just make them in one layer. While you're on that layer, just zoom in and so you can see your shape. Get your tool and just make little dusts. So this is going to be adding within the contents of the shape layer 1, which we already pre-composed. And just try to make as much as you want, as much as you feel like is realistic. I did see a lot of those particles in the background video, so I'm trying to match that just to make this play the part. Alright, zoom out. So now I have these particles. Let's change this to fit. I have these particles that I'm going to animate soon. But before that, I'm just going to go in here and have a look at what I can do. Fill 1, ellipse path, position. Alright, so what we can do is to just blur out these guys. Simply search blur for your effects and presets. If you're not seeing this, window, effects and presets. Get to blur. Let's just get the Gaussian blur. It's my go-to blur tool. And add some blurring to these guys. We want quite a lot actually, but to the point where we're seeing the inside. So you can see they're glowing now. And now, speaking of glow, we're going to add a glow effect to this. Add glow. Now they're glowing. And what we're going to do is to just add to the radius. Let's add to that. I'm going to zoom in on one of the particles so I can better customize it. Hit V. Can not seeing a preview. Glow intensity. And you know what? This is fine. You can remove from the threshold. I'm gonna leave it be, and if we just reduce the blur, it will look more realistic. I'm actually going to add to the blur now that I'm looking at it from afar. So now we have these glowing particles that we're going to add to our clip. If you go back to comp 1, we're getting these little dots everywhere. So I'm gonna go back in here and I'm going to just go on this, hit S. Because the anchor point is from the center and the center is from where the guy is showing up, I can make it appear from that position. But if not, I could make it come from another place, but I think that's actually a good place. So we're going to hit S, make it 0. So we're not seeing anything. Turn on the stopwatch and we're going to go all the way to the end. Zoom out and just expand it past the composition. So it's like going out of frame. Let's go to like this much. So we have some in frame by the end. And I'm going to go in the comp and see how it looks. Play it. So now you can see we're getting those little things on our layer 2. So now they're connected. We're getting some outside and we're getting some inside. We do have to work with the transparency. Hit T on shape 1 and remove some of that opacity because it's not that vibrant. And now we have a factor that is connecting these two guys together. Unlike before where it looked kind of fake. As in the particles existed in the back, but as soon as they got to this part, they went behind this, and that is not a good sign. So it's always a good idea to add elements on top of your entire work to make it match the scenario that you've created, which in my case is this magical galaxy moment. We could also, to intensify the feeling, Control D on shape 1, right click, transform, flip horizontal. So we're getting from 2 different directions. Right click again and just do it vertically 2. Flip vertical, so we're getting 2 different things. This is just a lazy way to increase the particles. You could also go in and create another shape layer, make it a pre-compose the layer, and then just add different circles, work with the glow and all that. But this is just a lazy way to do it. And now you can see we have a nice galaxy video. It's only 5 seconds, but you can make it as long as you want. And using these simple techniques, you can create this. And I'm not liking how they're traveling together. So what I am going to do is to just cut this around half of the previous one, Control D, duplicate it, and then bring this here. We're going to go in the end of this, hit T, and create a stopwatch so it fades there, 0. And we're going to do the same thing in the back, although we don't need to because the whole thing does not fade at all. So now we have this, and then halfway this appears, and it disappears, and then another one starts from the center. So that creates a more random appearance for those little particles. And yeah, so that was how we can replace the skies of footage using the mask layers and some key effects that we have in our effects and preset panel. We started with an easy example, and then we proceeded to go with a rather, I wouldn't say hard, it was more of a advanced editing, which, as you saw, it was doable, and we created this. So as long as you follow the steps and use the footage that I have kept in the resource pack, you too can create this. You can also take it to the next level, maybe add like a green colorized effect on top, so it's kind of with aliens. You can add like a snow overlay. Basically combine things that you have learned so far to make the best out of your clip. So I hope you guys enjoyed this rather long lesson, and I hope to see you guys in the next lessons.